Sunday. So I think there'll be a lot to talk about today, a lot of excitement of this past week of NFL games. I know we've got the one more here tonight. Before we jump into kind of typical office hours stuff here, I know the number one thing people are probably most excited about is our giveaway. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and just pull this up. Guys, if you weren't already aware, we've been talking about this a lot in all of our content recently, but we're doing giveaways and contests and giving away prizes to you guys all NFL season long. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've already gotten started. We opened this up with a big high stakes single entry and 3 max kind of giveaway where we were giving away tickets to higher stakes contests after the Thursday night showdown this past week. And we got started with what we're calling our max challenge here this past Sunday. So we're going to be announcing some winners here on this show here today. But real quick, just so you guys know, if you haven't already heard, right? All we're asking you guys to do for this contest to participate is change your DFS avatar to the SaberSim logo on this site here. We've been linking it a bunch in emails and in Slack, but on the site, this link or the button down here will take you to go get that logo, update it on DraftKings or FanDuel, and then max out either the 50-cent mini max on DraftKings for the Sunday main slate. I know there's been a little bit of confusion there, so just want to be totally clear, right? The challenge, we definitely had a little bit of give and take here with this week. Let everybody join that played these contests, but the challenge is indeed to max out these contests in line with our contest selection and bankroll management strategies, where we tell you guys to put as many entries into low dollar contests as possible, right? So max out either the 50-cent mini max or the 5-cent to enter pooch punt for the Sunday main slate. That was another point of confusion. I know a few users entered the Thursday to Monday or the Sunday Monday slate, but the Sunday main slate, right? The biggest one as possible. We want the highest number of effective entrants in the contest as possible. So the biggest one as possible. Please try to enter that early. If it fills, we will typically honor anybody entering the smaller one that they open back up. But again, that's not about us. That's a worse contest for you guys to play, right? Less effective entrance means that contest is harder to win. So get in early. If the mini max is up for week 2, go join it now. If the pooch punt is up for week 2, go join it now, right? Get in those contests early. But anyway, enough of the rules, right? That's the basics here. The prizes, though, a lot of fun, right? There's prizes for straight up winning one of these contests. We're going to be giving away and announcing winners for people that were the top finisher with the SaberSim logo that registered for the contest every single week. And we're going to do a drawing here on stream just now for 3 randomly selected entrants for the mini max and 10 randomly selected entrants for the pooch punt to basically play for free next week, to play it again next week. So that should be a lot of fun. But the one thing I really want to stress here before we jump right into this, before we get started, is this last one here. Play all 18 weeks and get a Yeti cooler, 3 free months of SaberSim, and entry to a $5,000 free roll for the DraftKings contest. And for the pooch punt, play all 18 weeks and get a set of Yeti Colsters, which are like little koozies. They're really nice. If you're outside drinking beer or whatever, they'll honestly keep it cold like all day. 3 free months of SaberSim and an entry to a $1,000 free roll. Guys, these are guaranteed prizes for playing this all 18 weeks. So highly recommend, if you played this past week, keep your streak up, play again next week. The reason we did this guaranteed prize pool for playing all 18 weeks is really the spirit of what this contest is all about, right? The idea here is spreading out your variance, not getting too hung up on the results of one week. I know there's probably quite a few users here that are watching the stream, that are in Slack, that are feeling really great, that had an awesome week 1 their Sunday. They probably had a profitable week. They're feeling good, ready to tackle this Monday night showdown. And there's probably plenty of users, myself included in that bucket, that didn't have such a good week 1, right? That had, maybe you had a losing week, you had a down week, and you're not feeling so good, right? The whole point of this is that we're spreading out our variance. We're sticking to a sound overall process. We're playing good contests using sound bankroll management. And we're going to get through the marathon that is the NFL DFS season and give ourselves an opportunity to capitalize on the edge we have from building our lineups with SaberSim, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit more as we get into office hours today, as we start talking about strategy. I know there's a few questions from a few users here that maybe didn't have such a good week, right? But I just want to really stress that, really emphasize that. That's why we're doing this guaranteed prize at the end for playing all 18 weeks. That's why the contest is for the DFS contests it is for. That's why we have 2 different levels of bankroll here to play with, right? Strong bankroll management, strong contest selection. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Use a strong process in every single week and it will work out for you, right? Okay. So anyway, just wanted to emphasize that we'll be tracking everybody that plays all 18 weeks. We've got all that recorded on our end. But real quick, let's go ahead and just get into this. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the DraftKings contest. So we didn't have a winner in this contest, not a literally top 1 winner. So we'll keep an eye out for this for whoever's getting the extra 1,000 free year of SaberSim and the championship belt as we go along this season. But we did, of course, have a top finisher. And let me go ahead and make sure I get the name right when I announce it here. But it was Toasted Taters who finished in 7th place in the mini-max, repping that SaberSim logo. So that was awesome. I know there were plenty of people just behind him too there as well. So again, awesome to see all the SaberSim logos in that contest. But Toasted Taters will be getting a free ticket to a $75 single entry. I think it's the same single entry that we were giving out last week. So we'll get that ticket into your account before this week's games. Free month of SaberSim. I think already reached out. I actually don't know if I've reached out to Toasted Taters here yet, but we'll make sure we get a free month of SaberSim onto your account. And again, you'll be the first user here to get access to that $5,000 free roll that will be running at the end of the season. More details to come on that. But next, let's go ahead and get into the next segment of this here for the DraftKings contest. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be picking out 3 randomly selected entrants from everybody that entered this. And what we're drawing for is free entries to the following week's, next week's week 2's mini-max, right? So it'd be $75 of tickets. I think the plan there is that we're going to deliver those as tickets as well. I got to talk to Andy on that, but we'll get tickets into your account. So I've got everybody here. Actually, not yet. Let me go ahead and copy this here and get everybody's DK username that played the mini-max this week. So first of all, let's see here. So we did get a fun recommendation here from a user. It was Keith, SportsFan14 here, that recommended this wheelofnames.com spinner. Maybe should increase the excitement here as we're doing these giveaways. If you watched the giveaway I did with Andy last week, we had 3 very different goofy number generators, but this one should be a little bit better. I know there were a few people that said maybe the excitement was a little bit lower the way we did it last week because everything was in alphabetical order. So you kind of knew as soon as the number was drawn if you had a chance to win or not. But as you guys see here, this is everybody that sent us their screenshot from the DK contest. We're going to go ahead and basically do 3 spins of this since everybody just has 1 name in here. I am just going to remove names if you win. So if you win, I'm going to pull you out so you don't win twice, right? And we'll do this 3 times. So again, this is for 150 entries into next week's mini-max. We'll go ahead and do our first spin now. And it is Elusive Smoke. So congratulations, Elusive Smoke. I don't think you guys can hear the noise here. I don't think I have a way to share computer noise through the streaming app here, unfortunately, but there's a big celebration. Woo! So maybe I'll act it out here and put it in there. So Elusive Smoke here was the winner of the first one here. So let me write that down. And Big Soob just said he doesn't see his name. Let me double check here. Yeah, so I can't do this for everybody, guys. So I think maybe just one and done here. But Big Soob, you can kind of see it reverse order here. This isn't the full list over here. This is like all spread out. But Big Soob, I can see you in the upside down here. Big Soob 05. I promise, guys, we triple checked this. Everybody's name is here as long as you got your email in literally right before I went live. So everybody's here. But let's go ahead and do our next drawing. Congratulations to Elusive Smoke. And we'll get the next one here going. This is the second winner for this week for tickets for next week's. Oh, I didn't take out Elusive Smoke. Whoops. Okay, that's okay. He didn't win again. It is Mike Facekiller. Congratulations, Mike. I assume your name is Mike. We'll remove you here. And let me go ahead and remove Elusive Smoke here now, too, so we don't accidentally roll him twice. Okay, perfect. All right, guys, for tickets, the last the 3 of 3 here for tickets for next week's Minimax. And it is, oh, it's close. It's Cyrus 315. So let me write these down here. And it was Mike Facekiller there for the second one. So guys, again, I'll make sure we get you guys your, I think it's going to be tickets. I gotta real quick check with Andy, make sure that the way we're actually going to be delivering these is like 150 Minimax tickets and not like $75 of DK cash or something like that. But we'll make sure we get all this out to these 3 winners. Let's go ahead now and bounce back over here quickly. Again, we've got our top finisher, Toasted Taters. Congratulations on finishing 7th overall in the Minimax. That's really impressive. There's 250,000 people or so in that contest, right? 7th overall is really impressive. Congratulations on your top finish there. And to our 3 random giveaway winners, Elusive Smoke, Mike Facekiller, and Cyrus 315. Congrats on that. On your free Minimax tickets for next week. So let's go ahead now and jump over to the Pooch Punt. So again, no straight up winner this week of the Pooch Punt, but we'll continue to look out for that. Really rooting for someone to take down that entire contest sometime this season. If you do, you get an extra $250. You get 6 free months of SaberSim and a custom trophy, the Pooch Punt trophy, or I don't know what it's exactly going to say yet. But the top overall finisher for this contest this week was me. No, just kidding. It was me. I was actually the top overall SaberSim finisher in the FanDuel Pooch Punt. But this contest isn't about me. This isn't about anyone working for SaberSim here. This is about you guys. We want to be giving out the prizes to you guys. So we've got second place, I guess, here was Nopticopter. Or Nopcopter. Let me double check the name on that as well, so I don't mess this up. Yeah, it was Nopticopter who came in 57th. I think I was 37th or 35th or something like that. So pretty good. I had like a Mahomes stack in mind. So I wasn't even a lineup I was looking at through most of the day. I ended up going out for a bit during the afternoon games and came back later. And I was like, came in 37th. But, Hard K. Okay. Canopticopter. Oh, that actually has got a pretty good feel to it. Canopticopter. I like that. Cool. So $25 contest ticket, free month of SaberSim. I think I've already got your free month in there. Sent you an email earlier this morning, and we'll get you your first entry into the $1,000 free roll that we'll be doing at the end of this season. Again, I think for FanDuel here, this is actually, I think, just going to be legitimately a $25 contest ticket that you can use to any $25 contest on FanDuel. This one, I think we're eyeing a specific single entry contest, but I will confirm both of those things. We'll get those into your guys' accounts. On FanDuel, since it is a much bigger contest in general, I think, at least. It's a cheaper contest to play. We're going to be giving out a few extra entries compared to DraftKings. So we're actually going to be picking 10 names here for free tickets for next week's Pooch Punt. So give me just a minute here, and let's go ahead, clear this out. And I will go ahead and get the full list. And we did have a few people who emailed me just before I went live, minutes before I went live for some of these. So everybody should be on here. Again, this is a list that we've triple checked. So everybody's name should be on here. I've got everybody that emailed by, you guys see it's oh, you don't see my clock here. It's 12:15 my time right here. So there were a few people that emailed right in that last 10 minutes. I got everybody in here. I promise we're going to be doing 10 polls on this. So this one will be kind of fun. This is for 150 tickets in the next week's Pooch Punt. You get to play the contest for free next week. So we'll start off with our first kind of pull of the lever here and see who takes it down. And it is Remy Toes. Congratulations, Tim. Guys, for those of you that don't know, Remy Toes is actually the winner of the big prize for the Thursday night game. So that was a $1,500 contest ticket. The $7.50 here to play the Pooch Punt again next week is a nice prize on top of that. I did see a question here earlier, so I'll answer it here. But Nacho Man said, so if you've won one of these, will you not be eligible to win again, or will they? No, you guys can play this every single week. So as long as you play, you max out the contest, you play the right contest, you can come play it again next week. If you take down the mini max, every single week here through the rest of the season, repping that SaberSim avatar, we'll give you guys the $1,000 free year of SaberSim and the championship belt every single week you take it down. So congratulations, Remy Toes here. We'll make sure to get those entries into your account. Let's go ahead and remove here and make sure that actually gets removed. Definitely some good luck here from Remy Toes so far to start the season. So hopefully keep that going with the DFS lineups. But anyway, let me note that one here. Get that one recorded. All right, guys, let's do another pull of the lever here. This is for our second winner of a week of Pooch Punt entries. And it is War Helmet. Congratulations, War Helmet. You play the Pooch Punt for free next week. And then I saw Cody real quick said, anyone know how he did in the 1500? Yeah, so DraftKings actually, it sounds like they were pretty much swamped getting ready for week one, and unfortunately weren't able to get our tickets out to our winners ahead of week one. So they're all getting their tickets this week, and it sounds like all these guys, I assume, the tickets don't expire. So really, people can hold on to them and play it in a week where maybe they feel like they've got a really good edge if they want. I don't know what people are going to do. I would expect everybody's going to enter this week, so we will see how people do. But should be week 2. Those tickets end up all getting used here instead. But all right, so we got Remy Toes and War Helmet as our first 2 winners. We'll remove War Helmet, and let's do another spin here. Our third winner for a week of Pooch Punt entries. And it's Ruku6. I assume that's the way you pronounce it. So congratulations, Ruku6. I think the spinner is definitely improvement here. It seems like it's a little more dramatic, a little more exciting. Let me know what you guys think. And if you guys have any suggestions, this one just came from a user that emailed us. So if you guys have a suggestion about a better spinner or anything like that, feel free to shout it out. But let's do number 4 here. And it's JLW 1419. Congratulations. JLW 1419. Got you right here. We'll go ahead and remove. And our 5th winner for the Pooch Punt for next week. I think we had 80 or so total people that entered. So you've actually got a pretty decent shot at this. And it is LSM or ISM? I assume it's LSM. LSM 35. Congratulations on your free Pooch Punt entries for next week. We'll go ahead and remove you and keep spinning. Let's see. So that's 5. So this is number 6 here, guys. Let's go ahead and number 6 spin. Oh, that was a strong one. I must have clicked a little harder that time. And it is J115. J115? I don't know. J115. Congratulations. All right, guys. Spin number 7 here. Oh, this one's so close. FL Thunder, I'm assuming probably Florida Thunder, 70. Congratulations. Let me write you down here. All right, I keep losing track of my... So that was spin number 7, guys. Spin number 8. We got 3 more spins coming up. And it's Ruben N. Mitchell. Congratulations, Ruben. And Ruben posted a pretty cool video of the Citi Field last night after Lindor hit his third home run. Pretty exciting game last night. So Ruben, thanks for sending that video in. I enjoyed watching that. But that was our 8th spin here now. So we've got 9 and 10, 2 more spins. And it's Pats fan 64. Congratulations. Pats fan 64. And guys, our final spin for this week here for 150 entries into next week's Pooch Punt contest. $7.50 of tickets on this spin. Here we go. Anticipation building. Oh, wow. Just ticked over the edge there. It's JCD 78. Congratulations, guys. JCD 78. Awesome. Well, congratulations to all of our giveaway winners this week. Let's bounce back over here quickly because I also saw a question from Jim here. So just want to remind you guys, this is the easiest contest you'll ever play in your life, especially if you're playing NFL DFS on Sunday, which, let's face it, I know you guys all are anyway. Change your avatar to the SaberSim logo on DraftKings or FanDuel. The logos are linked here. I'll go ahead and pop this link if you don't already have it in Slack. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just do it right now. I won't waste any time. Let's get it in there. So you guys just have it. Boom. That's the link, right? It's the logos are linked here and they're also linked here. Change your logos to DraftKings and FanDuel. Do it now. I've heard, especially I think DraftKings and FanDuel, their sites are super busy this time of year. It sometimes has been taking a couple hours for it to all the way update. Just go in and update those logos right now anyway. Updating your logos gets you access to the winner's circle, which gives you free SaberSim and awesome prizes outside of any of this stuff. So you want that up there anyway. What we need you to do is share a screenshot of your avatar in the contest that we are doing this contest for in the NFL channel in Slack or emailing Andy at SaberSim.com. Either of those are fine, right? We just need a screenshot that shows that you've got the avatar there and that you're playing the right contest. The right contests are the DraftKings 50-cent mini-max or the FanDuel 5-cent pooch punt for the Sunday main slates. And if there are 2, it is for the bigger contest, right? So I know there was a little bit of confusion this week. We let everybody in that kind of got the gist of this here just because there was some confusion. But what we're doing here is it is the big 50-cent mini max for the Sunday main slate for DraftKings and the big 5-cent pooch punt for the Sunday main slate on FanDuel, right? The reason why this isn't about us, it's not like we decided that these are the contests arbitrarily that it's going to be for, right? It's because these are very soft contests to play. And maxing them out, this is another term of the contest here, is you've got to max it out, right? Is going to smooth out your variance by giving you as many lineups as possible to give yourself as many shots at having a high upside lineup as possible, right? We tried to build this contest, this giveaway, to encourage people to play in the way that we recommend people to play anyway, right? Playing contests that have a ton of effective entrants, playing the lowest dollar contest first and get as many lineups in at the lowest dollar possible. And also this last note here, play all 18 weeks and get basically guaranteed free prizes, right? The whole point of this is smooth out your variance, right? This is a marathon. The NFL season is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not about binking week 1. It's about using a sound process with good contest selection and bankroll management all season long. So if you do that, and you play this contest here all season long, you're going to get access to free roll. You're going to get you're going to get access to free roll contests. You're going to get free SaberSim, and you're going to get some sweet Yeti stuff. So anyway, guys, if you have any other questions about this contest or just want to review any of this information or something like that after I hop off, I'm not hopping off right now. We'll stay here. We'll do normal office hours after this. But if you have any questions, check this out, right? The link's in Office Hours channel in Slack, or just email us, Andy at SaberSim.com, or email support at SaberSim.com. Any questions you guys have about this. But really, again, this can only go good for you, right? We're all playing DFS on Sundays anyway for football. So participate in this, play the right contest, and give yourself a chance to win a little bit of extra stuff. But again, one more congratulations. I'm not going to read off everybody's names, but congratulations to our 2 winners. Or the top finishers this week for the DraftKings and the FanDuel contest on your free SaberSim, free ticket for next week. And congratulations to all 13 of our drawing winners here who get to do it all again next week for free on us. So we will continue to do these raffles here, or giveaways, or whatever you want to call them, on Monday's office hours every week. So I'll note this again out to everybody as well in the channel. But guys, try to get those screenshots in either to the NFL channel in Slack or to Andy at SaberSim.com by maybe say like 1 o'clock Eastern on Monday mornings, right? You really can send it to us whenever, as soon as the contest locks. If you just want to set yourself a reminder on your phone for 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoons, 1 p.m. Eastern Sunday afternoons, take a screenshot, send it to Andy right away. You don't even have to worry about it. But we're going to be doing these giveaways here every single Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So get your screenshots in before that. Anyway, I think that is about it for the Max Challenge. These are a lot of fun to host here, so I'm excited to keep spinning our Wheel of Names. I love the site's name, wheelofnames.com spinner here every week, and pick out some winners, and we will go from there. So anyway, let's go ahead. I think if there's no other questions, guys, if there's any questions about the contest or the giveaways or anything like that, feel free to pop it into chat. I don't see any here. I see a ton of questions here for, let's see. I see a ton of questions for the contest giveaway, or excuse me, I got confused. I see a ton of questions for like NFL SaberSim stuff. So we'll get into those, but I don't see a lot of questions for the giveaway. Brian, I do see if you're watching here live, not seeing yourself on the FanDuel, I will check on that and figure out something for you if we missed you there. But okay. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and transition here real quick. I know a lot of people are tuning into these giveaways, which is awesome. Gives us a lot more people watching the office hours stream, but I figure there are probably some of you guys that have never watched office hours here before. So if this is your first time watching office hours, this is a live Q&A style show. Oh, let me close this. Where I answer questions from SaberSim users about SaberSim, about DFS strategy, whatever you guys want to talk about. You guys drive the show by asking questions. We do this show live for a reason. I want follow-up questions from you guys. I want you guys to be a part of the conversation. If you have thoughts on something that we're talking about, please shout it out into YouTube chat or into the Office Hours channel on Slack. But we're going to go ahead and just get into it. I know we are 30 minutes here into the stream already, so I will try to get through as many questions as possible here today. I'm going to start with the questions that came in earlier this morning and over the weekend. So, all right. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with questions that came in the Slack channel starting yesterday. Real quick, Ben asked, are you guys going to start doing projections for college football? I always like to, it looks like Phantom answered this question for me in Slack here, but I always like to talk about this quickly on stream. So anyway, we are planning on supporting college football in the future. We have the slates up in the app so that users can upload custom projections and use SaberSim to build their lineups, but we don't have projections at the moment. I think what is realistic at this point is for the start of next season, maybe as a hopeful date for us to have those projections. The reason why is because we do not rush our process for these things. Building a model and simulating these games is something we take very seriously. We are not going to put out projections that we do not believe in and will not use ourselves and trust and feel like we've properly reviewed and QA'd and all the things that go into building a model. If you've watched how our baseball model stream works on YouTube, or if you tune into our Thursday strategy session this week, which is going to be on our NFL model, you know how seriously we take this stuff. So that's why this question comes up in different forms: college football, NASCAR, tennis, right? Soccer, these different sports that we unfortunately don't offer projections for at the moment. That is the reason why. And that's why I always like to bring these up on stream and talk about exactly why we may or may not have projections for a certain sport at this time. So anyway, cool. Let's keep it going here. So next one was from Neil. I've seen this question a couple times from you, Neil. So we'll talk about this. Can you please go over how to do NFL? I'm extremely behind the curve in this. Lineups were far from behind. Yeah. So first off, calling back to this contest, right? 18 weeks, you play all weeks, you get a guaranteed prize, right? I mentioned that is the reason that is in the contest is inspiration because of the way we want people to play DFS, right? We want our users to play DFS. Guys, be very careful with tunneling on one particular week or one very small set of results. It is a big issue in NFL DFS in particular, I think. First of all, because I know everybody, myself included, gets so excited, so jazzed up for a week of football DFS. Sunday comes and goes pretty freaking fast when you're watching the games. You've got your whole week of excitement. You're dialing in your process, and you have a losing week. It can feel really frustrating. It can feel really, really bad. It can feel like you're doing something wrong, right? And that is where you need to be very careful overthinking things, right? NFL is a very variant game. DFS is variant in general, but NFL DFS is very variant. When you only have one a week, I think what happens is we end up tunneling on our process. So first things first, Neil, I don't know if you in particular have watched this video yet, but I am going to call out this video because I'm sure there are people that are watching that haven't seen it. But guys, last week we had Andy and Max on here talking about overall strategy for NFL GPPs. Look, this video is an hour and 20 minutes. I was on here too as well. But talking about NFL DFS strategy, right? So go watch this video if you haven't already. This is an hour and 20 minutes of content of how to add value to SaberSim, how to create your own individual NFL process, talk a little bit about contest selection in there, but also talk about how to think about editing exposures, filtering your lineups, dealing with leverage, all kinds of stuff is in there, right? This video really breaks down a lot of what my individual process looks like. I'm going to try to boil down what I would recommend a user do to feel overall comfortable starting to build their own individual process to answer this question. I am hoping at some point that I can do another video similar to this one, building 150 MLB DFS lineups with SaberSim. I have the same shirt on in that video as I'm wearing today, funny enough. But in this video, I actually broke down my entire baseball process that I was using for a random Friday night baseball slate. You can see this is an hour and 10 minutes. This isn't something I can explain super quickly here on stream, but I'm going to try to help to explain what I think the basics of what we hope a user would do using SaberSim for NFL. And again, go watch the other strategy session from last week, but let's go ahead and get started here. As you are beginning your process, especially if you are somewhat new to NFL, I would not worry too much about this step one phase, just to be completely honest, right? We've poured hours, hundreds of hours into dialing in our NFL model for this season. It is very good. There are going to be spots where you can add value. There are going to be spots where you can see things are not maybe exactly what you would expect. But I would say for the average user, you really aren't going to need to spend a lot of time on step one. Again, if you're interested in learning more about what you can do on step one, go watch the strategy session from last week. Step two, I also would not do a ton here. I would pick your sliders that fit the contest that you are playing. If you are playing many contests, right? Common question. You're playing a lot of different types of contests. Either maybe you're playing, you're entering the mini-max, so you're to play the contest. So you're playing these kind of sliders, but you also have some single entry contests mixed in there. I would either pick slider values for each setting that are kind of in between everything you're playing. So maybe you're playing the single entry and the 150 max. So you go ahead and just do something like this, but lean more to the high side. In general, right? None of these sliders are going to break your builds at high settings here overall. So I would lean higher if you're unsure, if you're playing a lot of different contests in different slider settings and things like that. But again, these are back tested by looking at previous contests that actually ran and building thousands of lineups at each combination of slider settings, and then making the highest expected value lineups, the best slider settings from that back test, the defaults, right? So they are very trustworthy. They're very good. I don't touch sliders almost ever, right? And to be honest, I don't do a lot of projection editing either. So obviously, where can you add value? Well, we're getting there. One of the things I would do is either set a stacking rule, a basic or advanced stacking rule, to kind of just bookmark your stacks overall. I would say bare minimum here is you're probably going to want a QB +1 in most of your lineups. You might want a run back game stack somebody on the other team, I would say you can either use the basic stacking rules, which is going to give you this familiar interface, and something like this is totally fine. At least 3 players from the same game, include a QB, right? It's going to give you, let's go ahead and remove defense, going to give you a nice basic game stack in all your lineups. Another one you could do is use the advanced stacking rule, which is going to give you a little bit more control, and say we want maybe a QB here. Let's say we want at least a game stack. I think this is what we did on stream. Actually, let's go ahead and do it this way. I think this is actually what we did on stream last week, but let's go ahead and say we're at least going to have 1 to 3 pass catchers, right? No more than 3, but 1 to 3 pass catchers for the QB. And we want 1 player on the other team. Maybe let's say we want that to be a pass catcher too, running it back, right? So we have a game stack. This is one thing that I think can be really good in football. You're going to get mostly stacks when you build, even if you don't set a stacking rule, but we know we want one anyway. So let's go ahead and just put it in. And I'm just going to say we're just going to build 20 lineups for now, because I don't want to do a super long build, but let's go ahead and build this. And guys, if you're looking for where to spend your time, where is your time best spent when you only have so much of it? It is on step 3, right? That's going to be the best place that you can add value to your process overall. So let's go ahead and let this build run, and I'll show you how I, in general, would recommend doing this. And it doesn't even require that you have necessarily a ton of nuanced NFL knowledge. And you, right, if maybe you're a big baseball fan and you play baseball and you don't know the NFL as well, and you're just diving in here, right? You don't need a ton of NFL knowledge even to do this particular component. So let's let this build run, and we'll talk about what we can do here. So while this is building, Jim said, okay, one more time for secondary stacks. How can you limit which team you want the secondary stack from? Okay, good question. So let me answer this real quick. I don't want this to freeze up on me, so I'm just going to let this finish. Okay, cool. So secondary stack, right? This is often referred to as a primary stack because it includes a QB. A secondary stack is going to be some other way to force correlation into your lineups that doesn't typically include the QB because you only get 1, right? So a common secondary stack is going to be making sure that one of your skilled position players in the other part of the lineup, probably a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, just for example, is correlated with another skill position player on the other team. This is just an example of what one might look like. So how can you limit which teams you want the secondary stack from, Jim? You just click this eligible team thing. It is going to pop up the list of all the teams on the slate. And this eligible teams is corresponding to your primary team here, right? So there isn't an eligible team for the opposing team because it's obviously just the opposing team. But basically what this is going to do is it's going to pick a running back, wide receiver, or a tight end from the teams you've specified here and pair it with a wide receiver or tight end from the team that they're opposing. That's the way this minor stack is going to work. And you can change the positions around, do whatever you want there, but that's how that's going to work. But anyway, okay, so we've got our build here on step 3. So now I had some minimum exposure set here from something I was testing earlier, but that's okay. We'll just ignore those. I reset those. So what can we do here now on step 3 that can add some value to our process? Again, this is going to be familiar to those of you that have already seen the strategy session from last week. But one thing that I like to do is go look at some of these guys that you're getting exposure to and maybe at certain positions, and look at some of these guys that maybe are very low owned as a starting point, and consider how much leverage you want to get on those players, right? We actually added this new leverage column to make this easier. This is your exposure minus your projected ownership. One of the things that you can do, I think, to add some value here is look at guys like Mo Alley Cox. I think this is a guy that some people were understandably a little bit frustrated with after this week, right? We have a pretty good projection for him. I know he had like 0 points, maybe 1 target, right? This is a good thing that you can look at, right? If he's going to be 1.5% owned, that's what we were projecting him for. We like him. We think he's in a good spot this week. Do we need 43.6 percentage points of leverage on him to feel comfortable on the slate? That makes him essentially the sixth player that we are most confident in on the slate overall, right? That might be an opportunity to maybe tone down some ownership to a guy like Mo Alley Cox, right? We can do that here a little bit more. Again, This actually, I think that I know this sermon news broke right before or very close to lock. So I don't think this ownership number is very accurate. But maybe we can continue to go here and look at a guy like Terrace Marshall. Maybe that's a similar situation where we just want to tone down this exposure a little bit. Another thing we can do is take a look at game stacks. We set a stacking rule, so this looks pretty good, or stack types, I mean. Another thing we can do is look at game stacks and make sure that these are games that we want to attack, right? Or are there any games that are missing here that we might want to attack? So again, we're doing this with hindsight, but I mean, these look like 4 games that I would have been interested in stacking, but maybe for whatever reason, right? I was interested in getting more exposure to one of these teams here. So maybe let's actually go ahead and expand our pool a little bit and look at a few more lineups. So maybe we wanted some exposure to this Packers-Saints game, right? And this research, like where this comes from, why would I be doing this, can be a lot of different areas, right? Maybe you're just looking at Vegas totals and just looking at high total games and making sure you have exposure to high total games. Maybe you are running your research builds, your high sim variance research builds, and you're seeing that there's a team or a game stack that actually is showing up a lot when you run builds at very high sim variance that you're not getting here. Maybe that game was Minnesota and Cincinnati, right? Maybe that's another game that you are looking for and trying to get some exposure to because they were popping in your research builds. Maybe you think that this game was actually going to be over-owned, right? So in the interest of getting additional exposure to these games you weren't getting beforehand, you're going to maybe bring this down to 20% of this particular game, right? So making adjustments here. So we covered individual player leverage, right? You can do that. You can spend some additional time on that. I think looking at leverage as a way to quantify how interested, like in your lineups, what you are actually rooting for to happen. Does it make sense? Does the players that you are rooting for more aggressively or you are very positively leveraged against the field make sense and combining with your intuition and the way you want to attack the slate? Right? We looked at stack types. Again, this is mostly solved by setting a stacking rule. So these are pretty good. We looked at like game stacks of ways that you can increase exposure to certain games that maybe have high totals or show up in your research elsewhere, reducing games that maybe you think the field is overstating based on your research for your process, right? Maybe you think that this game is going to be overowned. Again, there's not the biggest thing that you can do in your process overall. I think the most valuable time you can spend is dialing in your lineups and your player exposures and everything like that here on step 3, because you're playing with this strong pool of lineups, of 500 lineups that are built with our very sophisticated NFL model that are exactly set with the settings that make sense for the contest, right? So all we're doing is we're basically selecting the 50 in this case out of the 500 that we're going to actually use for the contest, right? But it's not entirely an exact science here. Not everybody's going to do this the exact same way. And the most important thing is that you are making decisions and adjusting your lineups in a way that is in line with the concepts of the game itself, right? And like, I'm talking about these concepts. So if you watch this video, this ultimate guide to beating NFL GPPs, right? The first thing we started with is talking about correlation is important, right? To build high upside lineups. Ownership fade is important when we're building high upside lineups, and taking advantage of variance in a very variant game is important when we're trying to build high upside lineups. So as you are making adjustments, I would ask yourself if they are in the direction that you want to move for those 3 things, right? Like, are you adding stacking rules that are allowing your lineups to be more correlated? Are you making adjustments to your exposure that give you greater chances to fade ownership that maybe isn't great chalk? I'm not saying go in here and like do anything crazy necessarily where you're like, okay, ownership is bad. Ownership bad, right? Remove ownership. Like that's not what I mean, but I mean, those are the concepts that you should have in the back of your mind as you're kind of incorporating this stuff into your process. But I think I meant to say something else and kind of got sidetracked here. I want to just emphasize that one sample of data here is not even close to enough, right? It's barely enough to even start coming up with of like 10 slates of data, right? That's 10 data points. That's really not a lot of a sample size. So focus on your process, right? Neil, continue to ask questions to me in office hours, but also to everybody else in the NFL channel. I saw Cody said that this is the exact process I used this week for my pooch punch lineups, right? Everybody's going to do things a little bit differently. Everybody's got something else to offer here, but be careful with overly focusing on results, right? Because it's just 1 week. That's why strong contest selection, strong bankroll management, and play as many lineups. That's the other thing, right? Play as many lineups at the low dollar contests as you can and make it through the marathon, right? And the EV, the expected value, the profitability of these lineups that we are building here, combined with your own individual process to add value here, is going to pay off. So anyway, I think enough on that particular question here, because I want to make sure I'm at least getting to every question that comes in here today. So, okay, let me go ahead and get to the next question. I'm going to be on these questions here that came in through Slack for a bit. I don't see a ton of questions that have come in YouTube chat, but I will go through and get through everything that came in through YouTube chat as well. So this question came in from Riku, I think. I think that's probably how that's pronounced. Earlier this morning, and it's on the Mo Alley Cox thing. Can you explain how you do your ownership projections? SaberSim was projecting Mo Alley Cox for 9+ points, and his ownership, which seemed very high compared to the rest of the industry. For me, the projections seemed very high given his role. Yeah, so, okay. Well, first, for ownership, the way our ownership is calculated is will run thousands of lineups at a very high sim variance setting, basically to get an idea of what like the pool of viable lineups looks like with very high variance. And basically the exposures for that particular build become the ownership projections. I have talked before about 2 limitations. Well, I'm actually going to say 3 limitations to the ownership model as it stands. The first is that it assumes a very diverse pool of lineups are in the contest. If you are playing small field contests, or if you are playing single entry or 3-max contests, ownership is going to condense more than we project it to, right? Our ownership projections should be thought of as for a very large field like the mini-max or the pooch punt tournament, where the pool of lineups is going to be very diverse. The second limitation is that we are not, because it's a completely data-driven approach to projecting ownership, we are not going to pick up narratives very well. We're also not going to pick up buzz very well. If a player is getting chalkier throughout the week without anything really changing about his fantasy outlook, right? Just buzz, just excitement, social media buzz, we're not going to pick up with that really well. I don't know if there were any players that were really like that this week. I think maybe Callaway. We didn't really have a week where there was like a super buzzy name that ended up like crazy high owned, but we're not going to pick up well on that anyway when that does happen. The final limitation, and the one that maybe, I guess, kind of came into play here, but I don't think really, is that we use our projections as an input to determine our ownership projections. We recognize that limitation. That's probably the first loop that we want to close with our ownership projections overall. But if we are very high on a team, or very comparatively high on a team, or low on a team or player than the rest of the industry, that can have an impact on what we think the field is going to do with that player, even if that doesn't make a lot of sense. So in this particular case with Mo Alley Cox, I think maybe it sounds like we were a little bit high on him here. It doesn't seem like it's had an impact on his ownership overall. But that can be the situation where that kind of comes up. Again, it's week 1, and we'll have Matt and Will on later this week talking about the NFL model overall, and how maybe a pass catcher's projection comes to existence, why a certain pass catcher is projected at what they are. But this is a situation where I think it can be very valuable to be digging into your leverage and looking here at the exposures that you're getting after your lineup builds, and make sure that this is in line with the way you want to attack your slate. Like, You're playing 50 lineups. Is one of my guys Mo Alley Cox this week? Maybe it is, but maybe that's not how much leverage we need to feel comfortable rostering him. So maybe we bring this down a little bit, right? And again, our goal here is to build you a set of very high upside playable lineups for the contest that you're playing, but it's not going to be, it's not a push button print money machine, right? It can use and benefit from a little bit of input from you to do things like that. So anyway, I'm going to keep us rolling here. That is kind of I think the question was mostly about ownership projections. So that is where I'm going to leave that off. And if there are questions more about the projecting side or the modeling side of it, I think those are better for Matt and Will to come on and talk a little bit more later this week about the NFL model. But let's keep it rolling, guys. TMB asked a good question, interesting thought experiment here. And he said, over time, what would you say would you say would give you the highest chance of 0.01% lineups in a 20 max or 150 max, taking the top 1 through 20 or 1 through 150, or mixing in lineups from the larger pool that is 500 or 1500? So this is a good question. And I actually spent some time thinking about this. And I think it kind of depends. If you are asking me, should I just play the top 20 or should I randomly pick 20 out of my larger pool? I would say pick the top 20, because what that question is really saying is, does SaberScore do anything? And SaberScore does absolutely do things. I think it's actually a very good calculation for quantifying how good a lineup is from the standpoint of what lineup can win a tournament, right? Correlation, ownership, variance, right? So from the standpoint of, is SaberScore doing anything? Should I pay attention to SaberScore? Yes, it's a very good calculation. The lineups at the top of your pool, I would say on average, are going to be better than the lineups in the latter part of your pool. Now, the caveat to that is it's probably not a perfect calculation. And if you are doing things in step 3 to limit exposures to guys that you think are going to be very high owned, in Showdown, right, we talked about filtering your lineups and looking for combinations of players that maybe don't make a ton of sense to you that you don't want to play, and removing those lineups. You're specifying a particular, oh no. Okay. Many users have now reported this, and I know this is super annoying, but there is a small bug here with the filters, and we are working on fixing it as soon as possible. But I'm just going to delete that build for now. Anyway, that will be fixed soon. But if you are doing things that actually add value to your process by narrowing in your stacks, narrowing your player pool, picking lineups that fit a game script for Showdown, right? And then you're starting to creep into the other lineups in your pool, the lineups that are in the top 500, the top 1500. You are yes, at that point, like, it makes sense to do that. So anyway, like, 2 ways to answer that question. The first is, yes, SaberScore is valuable, right? You should trust it, but you should not blindly trust it. And you should not throw away any edits you are going to make to your exposures because you're getting lineups with slightly lower SaberScores. So very good question here. Okay, let's see. I'm going to keep us rolling here, guys. There's a lot of questions to go through today. I'm going to answer everything. I know everybody's excited about football here and has a lot of questions after the first week of games. So this one was from Manny, and he said, hi, Jordan. If you have a min, can you go over the advanced rules in football? If you guys went over it, apologies. I did miss it. Point to the video about it. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I'll do a quick kind of demo of this. We just did one, but we'll do another one here, a little more intentional. So I'm assuming you're talking about this, Manny. Let me know if that's not the case. But this new advanced stacking rule is a new feature. We just pushed this out. The plan is to update this a little bit more visually, but we wanted to give this out to people that wanted to use it before week 1. So first things first, I'm going to delete both stacking rules. You can only use basic or advanced. You cannot use both. Whatever this is toggled on is going to be used. So if you have a basic rule and you toggle over to advanced, we're only using advanced. Right? That's what this tooltip says. But you go in and you click advanced rule. Another thing to note right off the bat, if you set an advanced rule, it is going to be used in 100% of your lineups. All of them. If you set 3 advanced stacking rules, all of them are going to be used in 100% of your lineups, right? This is for people that have a very particular set of lineup constructions that they want to play with. However, we do allow for these, like, mathematical operators, the greater than, less than, or equal to, or the range, that is pretty unique to SaberSim and allows you some flexibility. So there's a lot of different reasons you may want to do a stack here. A very common one is going to be to pair a quarterback with his pass catcher. So a common first stack here is going to be one quarterback. I would say, I think what is probably most common here is a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, because some running backs catch enough pass volume that it makes sense to stack. And I think what I would recommend most users to do is to do something like this, right? We don't want to, I would urge you away from being aggressively rigid or overly rigid here. Give the builder some room to work. And the reason why is because we don't need to just rely purely on rules of thumb, because we know exactly how correlated players are to one another, right? We don't have to guess what running backs are good to include with my quarterback stacks, right? No, that's not the case here. McCaffrey catches a ton of passes. He's correlated with his quarterback, right? Derrick Henry doesn't catch a lot of passes. He's correlated with his defense. He is negatively correlated with his quarterback, right? So don't worry too much about these rules trying to be super rigid. Give the builder some space to do what it does best. So I think, again, a common one here, I didn't hit save, so it went away. But 1 to 3 there is very common with a pass catcher coming back, right? That's probably a common stacking rule that I think most people are going to want. Actually, let's say it's a wide receiver or a tight end coming back. This is going to be a very common stacking rule. From here, there's a ton of different ways that you can add minor additional stacks. I think this is a good starting point. I would, again, be careful to not go too crazy here, because it's going to force this in 100% of your lineups, and it may force player combinations that aren't actually necessarily super correlated with one another. You can do the mini stack that we were talking about earlier, where you stack like a skill position player from one team with a pass catcher from the other, right? Which those players are often correlated, but not always correlated, right? So yeah, like you can see the idea here. Like McCaffrey has some very minor correlations with some of these Jets receivers, but he's probably negatively correlated to some of these guys, right? Like you're forcing the builder to do things that it will try to avoid, but you may not allow it to avoid if you set too many stacking rules here. So this is kind of what I would start with here. So I think, okay, the last thing here I'll note is the eligible teams, right? If you had a preference on which teams were included in this rule, you can do that here. So you can go in and say, I want to play Atlanta stacks, KC, New Orleans, Tennessee. Like you're picking maybe some of your high total teams that you want to stack, but you're leaving out some others, something like that. But remember, we're going to force this stack into 100% of lineups. So if Indianapolis here is not checked and we go like this, you're going to have 0% Carson Wentz exposure, because it can't follow this stacking rule with the teams you've specified and not have Indy selected here. So just something to note there. But kind of in summary here, right? This is really cool. It allows you to get very precise control over what your lineups look like, which admittedly is a pretty new concept to SaberSim stacking rules, but it's applied to 100% of lineups. So be careful and go slow. You don't need to set a ton of rules here, because the correlation slider is still going to help make sure you get those other micro correlations and pick the best stacks to use overall and the right players to use in your stacks and do all that for you. So don't go overboard here, but that's kind of how I would recommend using it in general. So great question, Manny. Okay, so let's see. So Ron said, can you give me a step-by-step to upload entries to DK? Thank you. Yes, I can. So since it is a new slate, I'm going to do the showdown for tonight. I need to do this anyway because I have reserved entries, which we always recommend people don't do, but my lineups are reserved. I don't have lineups in there, so let's do this. So first thing you do, I'm going to try to go slow here. Ron, I don't know if you are watching me live. If you are, give me a heads up so I know you're here, because I would love if you can ask me any questions you have as I'm stepping through this. But first thing you should do is you go to the entry editor and you are going to download template file from DraftKings. This is going to take you, well, it's briefly just going to flip over to the exact page on DraftKings where you get the file, and you're going to see this. Let's actually do this real quick so you can see everything on my screen. And you're going to see, where is it? This. You're going to see this pop up, right? This is saying, where do you want to save this file? These are your entries. So you click Save File, and then it's going to, so I have my Firefox default to set up to save all of my files to downloads, but you may also get an opportunity to choose where you're saving that file. Now you're going to click Upload Entries File, and I'm going to go to my downloads and click. You can see I've got a ton of random entries files in here from different slates, but I'm going to pick the new entries file, and this is going to pull up all the entries I'm playing in the showdown contest tonight, right? Probably going to look very familiar to you, those of you that are following our recommendations for contest selection strategy, right? I have 73 lineups tonight. For now, I just want a unique lineup in all entries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to the home screen. I am going to quickly just edit 2 projections here very slightly so that I don't see a message on step 3. I'm going to pick an average set of slider settings for the contest I'm mostly kind of playing tonight, which is probably roughly mostly 20 maxes over 50K. And I'm going to build 73 lineups. Not super worried about the pool size. I'm not going to do a ton of work on these lineups right now. I'm just going to build them. I just want to get them into my contest. So this is going to build. We will give this just a minute to complete. And perfect. I've got my entries. Man, it is sure going to be interesting how much the field rosters Lamar Jackson at captain tonight. I think that is probably the entire story of the slate, where the breakpoint is of where his captain ownership makes sense and where it stops making sense. But anyway, these are my lineups. I'm feeling pretty good. If you change something here, let's actually demonstrate this. So let's say I decide that I don't want to be overweight on Lamar Jackson, so I'm going to cap his ownership at captain to 38%. And I want to be overweight on, let's see, Darren Waller. I want 20%. So I'm going to make some changes here. Okay. Then you want to click Save to make sure that goes in there. So you click Save. You're going to get this little green indicator. It timestamps it to the new update here. You go to Entries. Okay. Now we need to fill the lineups. So we're going to click Fill Contest with Lineups. You're going to get to see this drop down here that has all of your builds and different saves. So we just did the one at 102 my time. So I'm going to click that. Fill method. How does this work? If I click rank and fill, it's going to put the exact same lineup, my top overall SaberScore lineup, in all of my single entries. It's going to put my next best 2 lineups in my 3 max. I only have 7 entries in the play action. It's going to put all same of those same 3 plus the next 4 into the play action. The dime package, the quarter jukebox, and the first down are all going to get the exact same 20 lineups, right? I don't want to do that. I want unique lineups. I don't care where the lineups end up going. I want a unique lineup in each contest. So I'm going to fill uniquely instead, right? So now these exposures match kind of what I put them at. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click download all entries. My lineups are filled. I'm going to click download and open DraftKings because this is going to take it right to the exact page I need to enter, which is really useful. I'm going to save my file. Again, it's going to save to my downloads folder. And all I need to do is click upload CSV, find the file, and upload. And I'm going to get no errors because it worked great and it always works great, right? Didn't have to touch a CSV, didn't have to do anything. I was kind of narrating this as we went through, but honestly, guys, this process, if you're just doing it and you're used to doing it, is 30 seconds or less. Super fast. So again, didn't hear from Ron here walking through this question, but I'll give you a timestamped link to this video just so you get, oh, that's actually, whoops. That is the, yeah, let me go ahead and pull this back here. And put this up. Yeah, cool. So anyway, I'll get you a timestamp link, Ron. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I tried to kind of go slow and step through this here and talk about it, but yeah, happy to help there. So, okay, I'm going to keep us going, guys. I am happy to answer questions as long as you guys have them. I see we still get more questions. I want to make sure that I am getting to everybody. So let's go ahead and let's look at this. So Blue Devil here had a question about the mini game stacks as well. He said, could you please go over the basic rule process for a game stack / mini game stack? I tried building a mini stack for the Arizona / Tennessee game using the basic rule, and could not get it to work. The process I tried, I unselected all the teams, then only highlighted Arizona and Tennessee and set the rule to include at least 4 players from that game. When I ran the sim, it appeared as though it ran sims using my cache settings and gave me those same lineups. Could very well have been operator error. Thanks. Yeah, so here's how you would want to do this. So this is using the basic rules. So let's go ahead back to the main slate and pull up the basic rules. So again, this is a different kind of version of the stacking rule, right? We're leaving this up here because we want people to be able to build the stack rules however they want. But the idea here is, okay, so at least 4 from the same game, and we're always using Arizona or Tennessee. One thing I'll recommend too is just getting in the habit of turning off the defense when you're doing these. I actually think it should be off by default, but at least 4 from the same game. Blue Devil, I mean, what I'm thinking probably happened here, if you said it used your cache settings, is it honestly probably accidentally had a cache build settings set. It's happened to me before where I'm not looking at it and it changes to build cache, or I've changed it to build cache at some point and didn't realize. So I would say just make sure that you have the GPP settings set. The stacking rule looks good, at least 4 from the same game, only including Tennessee and Arizona. So let's go ahead now and build and just see what it does. I believe this is going to work. If it doesn't, we will dig into why. But this is the way I would go about doing this here. So let's let this build finish here. Gives me a good minute to catch my breath here. I've been talking for an hour and 7 minutes or so already here. Don't want to lose my voice on stream. Okay. Oh, you know what? I have exposures set here. Whoops. Hang on. I still have these. So I was doing some testing earlier and I had some minimum exposures to guys like Aaron Rodgers. So that was kind of a waste of a build. Let's do a shorter one here. I knew that was going to happen. Actually, let's go ahead and do this. Just reset. And I think that should reset everything. Okay. So now I don't have minimum exposure set. So that's another thing actually to check, right? Because that just happened to me. So if that button that's saying reset players is visible, it means you've changed something. Always good to just click that reset players and get back to default here. But let's go ahead and try this again. We'll do a little bit of a smaller pool. Okay, so I saw Blue Devil also mentioned here in Slack. I did have cache selected in the dropdown. Yeah, so if you have that cache setting set, if the dropdown is saying cache, it is going to build you the cache lineups, right? It's actually going to use a different version of the builder that's optimized to build maximum projected score lineups. So that's why you are going to get those. That's basically what happened here, it sounds like. But anyway. What is interesting here? So I actually thought I need to check on this because it looks like we are obviously not getting there's a few of these lineups that aren't totally right. So I will check on this, right? Like oh no, it's actually mostly lineups that aren't right. Why did that not work? Yeah, I will check on this for you as well, because that just actually appears like it didn't work correctly at all. So I'll check on that and figure out what's going on there. It is possible that there is a little bit of interference here with the advanced stacking rules potentially. So I'll figure out what's going on there. But thank you for mentioning that. So that seems like a bug to me. I'm going to keep us rolling here on to the next questions. And okay, so Samuel said, when looking at projections, if I just want to use players under captain/MVP with points between 30 to 60, Should I look at the percentiles? I don't think you need to. Actually, the percentiles in general aren't going to be adjusted here for the MVP or captain positions, at least as far as I'm aware. So I wouldn't look at the percentiles here. Yeah, like the percentiles are going to be for their actual like raw fantasy point output, not their multiplier adjusted output. So I would say if you only want to roster, if you're only interested in rostering players between 30 and 60 points at captain, your options are looking pretty limited for tonight, at least. It looks like you're playing Lamar Jackson at captain. I think for FanDuel, actually, it's probably more, right? Because it's the... Isn't it a 2x multiplier? No. I thought it was. So it's not. So yeah, options are a little limited. But I would just, let's say you've decided you're only going to play like 15 or more, right? Just unselect all and reselect in. Oh, that actually unselected all. No, unselect all MVPs and reselect in the ones you want. And then build your lineups, right? Just looking at their projected points. There's a part of me here that feels like I misread this question. So Samuel, if you're watching this and I'm like totally off base here about the way I'm answering this, let me know. But I don't think you need to dig into the projections here or to dig into the percentiles here to do this. So a couple other people that noted maybe weren't listed on the spinner. I will follow up on these and double check. So I actually, let's see. So this was Buffalone, EJS0186. That was in my list here. Again, guys, I'll look back at the recording here. I can't see any way somebody would have been in my list and didn't end up in the spinner. So I'll just double check and make sure here, right? We've kind of already gone through. Again, the list on the right, if you were watching along and just like saw the list on the right, that wasn't the complete list, right? That was just like the last 20 usernames that were in the list. The full list was like 80 different names. So I assure you guys, everybody was there, but I will double check. I know a few of you guys have reached out and asked about this. And I'll make sure that everybody got in here. Let me check Brian too, since he mentioned it. Okay, so yeah, Brian, I don't know if you're still here watching along with me as well. BCAP888, you're on my list as well. So I will double check and make sure that you were showing up there. But you guys should have been in there. So I have an Excel spreadsheet that's set up here where I just copied all of the usernames and pasted them in, and I just Control F search for you guys, and I saw you come up. So, but I will make sure. I'll double check. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Andrew had a question here. Let me make sure I got everybody. Okay, so Andrew said, had issues with uploading my DK entries into SaberSim during the contest after lock. What is the best way to upload your entries after lock and change them to swap out one or more players, e.g. late swap? Yeah, so really good question. There's two different ways to do that. So the first way is we call it quick swap. So let's say you're playing the Monday through Thursday slate. That's actually a really good example. And you've built your lineups. Actually, I don't have entries for this slate. Let's do this. Let's assume that you can late swap for a single game, which you cannot. But let's assume you can. There's two options to late swap. The first is quick swap. There's two ways to do this. Quick swap all out players. If you just click apply and download, we're quickly going to search through all of your lineups and look through players that either have a current projection of 0 or are actually listed as out, and remove them with either the best available player, or you can actually, you can't specify a specific player for all out because we don't know what position they're going to be. So if you just click this, I did this for Odell Beckham this weekend. If you just click this, apply and download, it's just going to remove everybody that's out. It's a really nice way to do this quickly. The other option is late swap. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to rebuild all of your lineups completely. It's going to lock in the players who are in your lineups whose game has already started and exclude all the players who's not in the lineup whose game has also already started, and rebuild the best lineup around the remaining players in the lineup based on the contest and the sliders that you've selected. So it will use the principles of correlation and ownership fade and sim variance to build the best lineups around what you already have in there. It's going to take a little bit more time, but it will build probably better swapped lineups. So when news breaks and you need to adjust, what we always recommend is start with a quick swap to get all out players out of your lineups and just make sure you don't have any dead money lineups. Apply and download, upload to DraftKings, but then to run a late swap and actually rebuild the lineups and go from there. So there's two ways to do it. There's quick swap and late swap. Best way to do it is to quick swap first, then late swap. Ron said, I made a mistake somewhere in 120 max contest I played. All had the same lineup. Yeah, that's not good. Let me know. I would say, honestly, maybe if you're playing the showdown tonight, practice on the showdown. Watch that. Maybe watch my recording again over and just go step by step. Go slow, right? A good rule of thumb here, something that can be very useful, is if you're filling with unique, this only works for unique. I want to make that overwhelmingly clear. This is only true for unique. But a good check is just check that your exposures match up, right? If you built a unique lineup for every entry that you're playing, I have 73 lineups, right? Your exposures here should match up to your exposures here because it's the same. If you're filling with rank or exact match or doing other things, it's not going to work that way. But that's a very good way to just quickly check that this is correct. So. Okay, almost through these office hours in Slack channel questions. I see there are questions in YouTube, guys. Again, I promise we're going to get to everything. So stick around if you've asked a question in YouTube. I think the only other thing here was from Clement trying to backtest the actual scores not coming up. Yeah, so we are aware of that. Let me make sure I'm still doing this. Yeah, we don't have actual scores or review mode working for NFL at the moment. We'll have it up for week 2. It was one of the things that we had to kind of delay getting ready for the start of football season to get all the other things we have, stacking rules and all these other things going that we have for week 1. So we'll have that up for week 2. Let me go ahead and okay, cool. All right, let's go ahead and start going through these questions that came in through YouTube and make sure I have gotten to everything. I'm just looking back all the way through the top. Wesley, real quick, I don't know if you're still here, but if you are, great. How do you get the Slack info? Shoot us an email, support@sabersim.com. We'll send you the link. It's also in the description of the link to join our Slack community is in the description of every past office hours video. So this one you're watching live, obviously, probably doesn't have a description at the moment. It will later. Or any old office hours video that you pick should have a link to the Slack channel. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, so Sooner Dallas had a question. Don't know. I hope you're still here watching along. And he said, I'm trying not to watch my phone all day during the games. Before the afternoon games, though, for NFL main slate, would you just rebuild after inactives, or do I actually need to look at your lineups? You don't really, to be completely honest. If you go in here and just verify that on the home page, right? So check the home page, check the timestamp, right? And make sure, so say like this is a Sunday main slate, right? Based on your time zone, make sure that we have run the sims for the inactives update. So make sure that the last sim that ran came out after all the inactives came out. But from there, no, you can legitimately, again, what I would recommend doing is starting with a quick swap to get all the out players out of your lineups. But then from there, just running another late swap. And you really don't need to actually look at your lineups in depth here. In fact, you don't, even if you did, you're not really going to have a lot of tools to do much with them. And if you run this late swap, we will take whatever the appropriate sliders. This is the showdown contest again, so correlations at 0 and things like that. But on a main slate, it'll be more like this or whatever, right? Something like that. We'll rebuild the lineups with the same sliders, with the same build settings, the same stacking rules, and make sure that you get the best lineups around the new inactives news as possible. So, okay, cool. Okay, so Cody asked a question, and I think this was probably when we were talking about the stacking rules, and he said, is there going to be any way to add exceptions to this? Like, generally, I don't want to pair QB and running back, but I might be okay including Kamara and Winston or McCaffrey and Darnold. So here's, again, what I would recommend you do when you're thinking about this is create your rules allowing for whatever. All right. Let's see. Am I back? I think I'm back. I think my internet just slightly blipped on me for a second. Someone give me a sign if you guys can hear me. Anybody there? All right, I'm back. Cool. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think my internet just blinked real quick. So talking about these stacking rules, right? Build your stacking rule that allows for the condition that you are okay, the widest condition that you are okay with, right? Because you're going to do a rule like this. You're going to do 1 to 3 because you're open with different game stacks. And SaberSim's correlation values are going to take care of the rest of this, making sure that this actually makes sense, right? Because, oops, that's not what I meant to do. I wanted to pull up correlations. Not every team, as Cody mentioned here, makes sense to pair the quarterback with the running back, right? We just looked a minute ago at McCaffrey, who was correlated with Sam Darnold. We're okay with that stack. We looked at Derrick Henry, who is not correlated with Ryan Tannehill. We're not okay with that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Cody said, yeah, that is kind of what I figured after I asked it. Yeah, right. Derrick Henry is not correlated with Tannehill. We're not going to use him there because our correlation value is still up. It's non-zero. So that's the other important thing to note here is never set a stacking rule and say, okay, my correlation's taken care of, turn off, right? You want correlation up. You want it up at the default values because then it's going to make sure that the stacks make sense. Same deal with 3 wide receivers, right? There's certain teams that I'm okay playing 3 wide receivers with. There's certain teams I'm not. Maybe it's Cincinnati, right? Maybe didn't work out perfectly this week, but maybe you're theoretically okay on the right slate playing Higgins, Chase, and Boyd together. Or I don't know. There's different teams that maybe you're okay with doing that with, right? The Sims and the correlation slider will take care of handling that. So set your stack rule as wide as you are comfortable going with it and let the Sims handle when it is appropriate to do certain stack types. So anyway, okay, let's keep it going, guys. Jim said, when I log in to SaberSim, it defaults to college football. Can I change that? That's kind of weird. I don't know why that is happening. I would, Jim, shoot us a message so we don't lose track here. Maybe in the support channel or something like that. And we can kind of look into what's going on there. It should default to NFL at this point. And I think it should default to the NFL, the like main slate that day or that week is what it should be doing. So I'm not sure why you're getting the college football default there. Mo Jiggy said, I'm limited to 20 lineups. Can I run this 8 times and get different lineups each time for 150 max? No, you can't. There's no guarantee that between builds, the lineups are unique, right? There's still going to be unique lineups in there, but you're also probably going to duplicate sometimes. I would say if you're on the starter plan, and you are limited to 20, the kind of point of that plan overall is really for people that are playing 120 max or less, or mostly getting a lot of their action in just a couple of single entries or 3 maxes, or are in some capacity or another playing 20 or less unique lineups on a slate. If you are interested in playing more, I frankly would recommend upgrading to the advanced plan. You'll get unrestricted access to the tools, build as many lineups as you like, up to 1,500 in a build, and they will all be unique. But lineups within a build will always be unique from one another. We're not going to duplicate lineups within a single build. Lineups from multiple builds can be duplicated potentially. But good question. Okay. Pillsbury Doughboy said, any tips for the NFL Showdown Monday Night Million? 10 or less entries. Is it worth it? Almost certainly not, to be completely frank. You're putting in $150 worth of entry fees to play 10 entries into the Millie Maker. There are a lot of different ways I would recommend attacking this slate than that. Let's take a look at the lobby here real quick. And I'll say kind of how I would do this with 150 entries or $150 of entries. First of all, the main reason why we don't want to do this, right? This is a punishing payout structure, right? Just a brutal payout structure. I've got the Roto Grinders Firefox extension, which is pretty cool. It does some of these calculations for you, but this is a 200,000 person contest where 40% of the prize pool is given to first place, right? That's absurd. I mean, it is almost going to be pure complete variance who actually takes first. There's going to be skill getting lineups into the top 1% probably, but who takes first is pure variance. It's a lottery ticket is what this is. 1.67x min cash is not great. 50% of the top 10, but really more. That's just indicative of how much is already going to first. It's raked at 15% too. Brutal contest. Not a good contest to play, right? Lottery ticket, if that's what you're interested in. But if you want a lottery ticket, just play a single entry. You don't need 10, right? So you've got $150 to play this with. Here's where I'd start instead. First, filter by maybe $3 and under contests. Let's pick the right slate. Showdown slate. Okay, $3 and under, where people that with $1 million or more in lifetime winnings can't even play. If you've won $1 million, I wish I'd won $1 million so far on DraftKings. I haven't, so I can play these contests. And then sort by highest entries first. Yes, I said highest. The reason why is because we're going to be looking for contests that have the highest number of effective entrants. Effective entrants is the number of total entries in the contest divided by the entry limit for any one person. And it's basically going to say how many people would it take if everybody was maxing this contest out to fill this contest. The whole thinking here is that there is a finite amount of very skilled people in the lobby any night. And the very skilled people in the lobby are typically playing a ton of contests, and they're typically maxing them out. We want to minimize the impact, or it doesn't even have to be very skilled, people better than you, right? There's a finite amount of people that are better than you, and we want to limit their impact they can have on their contests. So let's just say I'm pretty good at this, and there's, let's say, 500 people playing this showdown here tonight that are better than I am, right? And one contest I could play is this 20 max safety, right? You look at this, you say 10% to first, 27% to the top 10. Maybe this is a pretty decent contest, but there are 6,000 people in this contest and 20 entries per person, right? Well, that's only 300 people. Now, not every entry in this contest is going to be by somebody maxing it out. We can see that here. But the impact of people maxing this out is going to be pretty dramatic on the lobby overall. And the people that are very good at NFL DFS are going to have a big impact on that contest. They're going to take up a lot of the seats in that contest. Compare that to something like the first down that, yes, 178,000 entries is going to be difficult to win, but there's going to be way more dead money in this contest because there's going to be a ton of people playing this contest that are worse than me or are unskilled players. So you can see my overall strategy here was to play a lot of these big contests. What we recommend people do is focus on contests that have 1,000 or more effective entrants. Finally, the last point I'll make on this, and these are all, first of all, before I wrap this up here, these are all tips that we've talked about over and over again, but particularly in this video, how to double your NFL DFS ROI in 15 minutes, right? This is not a hyperbole. This is not an exaggeration. This is videos about contest selection and bankroll management, and you can legitimately double your ROI playing better contests, right? Especially making the jump from something like the Millie Maker to playing these better contests. So anyway, the last note I'll make on this here is instead of playing $150 where you're playing 10 entries, right? You got 10 shots at it, $15 each. I'm going to get 73 lineups or so down with what I'm playing for this slate. But if you were playing $150 worth of entries, you could probably get way more lineups down. That's going to give you way more opportunities to build a high upside lineup and smooth out your variance significantly. So overall, that is what I would recommend. I saw Pillsbury, is Pillsbury Doughboy still here? Said, thank you for the advice. Yeah, absolutely. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you're interested more in like contest selection strategy, it's huge. There's a reason it was our first NFL content video we did of this season. Go watch this video. It's on our YouTube channel under strategy session. How to double your NFL DFS ROI in 15 minutes. I saw Samuel had a question here. So 1,000 entrants or under 1,000 entrants? No, over. We're looking for over 1,000 effective entrants, right? And not 1,000 entrants, 1,000 effective entrants. So it's the number of entries in the contest divided by basically the entry limit, right? So for the mini max, it would be 119,000 basically. 119,000 divided by 150. So there are 793 effective entrants in this mini max, which actually means, despite the fact that it is a huge contest, it actually isn't the best contest that you can play, right? It only takes 793 people to fill this contest out. Are there 793 skilled people in the lobby? I don't know, but there's probably a few hundred, maybe 500, 500. Those people are going to have a big impact on this contest. They're going to take up a lot of entries, even though this contest is big and has a soft payout structure. Those same people are going to have a much smaller impact on something like the first down. So you're looking for over 1,000 effective entrants. So, Samuel said, any cap on that? That's an interesting question, and we've talked a little bit internally here, back and forth. I don't think there really is a cap, an effective entrance cap on where this would stop. And I know the immediate answer is like, well, okay, what if it was 1 million people in the contest? How am I going to beat 1 million people? And there's two answers to that. One is that these contests, especially at the lower stakes, have such favorable payout structures that it is an important transition to stop thinking about winning necessarily and just start thinking about placing in the top 1%, because at this area of the stakes in particular, you're rewarded for doing so, right? If you were in the top 1% in this particular contest, that is going to be a min cash, right? No, it's lower than that. So you're going to at least triple up, and then you get this very smooth payout from there. And if you're in the top like 0.1%, for example, you're going to 15x or 10x your return on investment, and you get this nice smooth payout structure going up, right? If you compare that with the Millie Maker, for example, you're going to just be you're going to be completely punished for every position other than first place, basically. The second thing I'll note on this real quick of why I don't think there's really a cap on this is because actually, if we really think about the way this works, there really is legitimately a finite cap on skilled players in the lobby. So even if there was 1 million people playing in the contest, at some point, the only people that can fill that up are bad players, right? Because there's only so many good players out there. So yeah, there's way more contests there's way more entries in the contest, but a lot of them are just at a certain point just going to be terrible, just really bad lineups that you're going to be able to take advantage of, that are dead money, that are paying the rake. So Samuel said those 1,000 entrants also apply to the single entries, correct? Yes, they do. But in that particular case, the total number of entrants is just the effective entrants because everybody only gets one. So for example, you can see I've already entered both of these contests, but like both of these are good. They're 11,800 effective entrants each. So, okay, cool. Let me keep going here. Okay, so Eli said, I'm doing a build for tonight's showdown on FanDuel, and I'm not getting any lineups with Marquise Brown or Tyson Williams at MVP in the entire pool. I haven't adjusted anything at all. How can I fix it? Let's go ahead and run a test build here. One thing, we are defaulting to this Baltimore at Las Vegas flex slate, which is something new that FanDuel is doing, and we don't support. So I think we're looking at removing this slate from the app, but in the meantime, just make sure you have the right one. I don't know what flex is. It must be a new game that FanDuel put out, but let's go ahead and try this out. So one thing that is important to note is that FanDuel does not charge you more to use a player at the MVP slot, right? The impact that has on your lineups is that it becomes disproportionately better to play players that have very high raw points projections, because you basically get to multiply their projections for free, right? Lamar Jackson is the highest projected overall player on the slate by a lot, by 10 points. Without having to use any additional salary to roster him, he is the 15th best projected MVP. So you're going to get a ton of Lamar Jackson, a ton. We're not getting any Marquise Brown and Tyson Williams, it looks like. That actually makes some sense to me, because you don't gain really, I guess. I mean, we're going to run a build and test this out, but you don't gain anything by rostering those guys at the MVP slot, really, right? Like, there's an argument to be made for ownership, I guess, right? That's maybe the one thing. That would probably be a very leveraged play, but you're not gaining salary you're not giving yourself more opportunities, more salary to use at the flex spots by using these guys in the MVP. You are basically making a statement that they are any lineup that has these guys at the MVP slot. You are essentially any lineup that has anyone at the MVP slot. You're basically making a statement that the win condition for that lineup is that your MVP is the highest scoring player on the slate. So you can still get these guys. You can still force some of these guys in. One thing I would just make sure is that you have a very high sim variance here, which is the default. And let's see what we get. But it's entirely possible that we just get none in our entire pool of these guys. Our first 500 lineups, it's not viable. Cody said the issue is it caps out your builds at like 800 lineups created and never uses them, saying it can't make any more lineups, which cannot be true. Let me make sure that I'm just reading this here. They're checked in the player pool, but it won't build them in any lineups. Okay. Let's see what happens with this build here. We can try a bigger build too. It does look like it's going a little bit slower here. Yeah, okay. So it's not completing the build. So I can follow up on why this build isn't finishing. That is an interesting note here. And maybe that might be interesting. Yeah, I'll follow up there and figure out why the build's not finishing, why you're not getting a full pool of lineups. But you can kind of see, like, this is going to be very typical exposures for any FanDuel showdown slate. Because you are not, like, you do not have to pay more to roster these guys at MVP. So the builder is going to say that the optimal way to play is almost always going to be to play the highest projected raw points players at MVP, because you're giving up a ton of projected points to roster anyone else there. But I'll figure out why these builds aren't completing. So, good question. Okay. All right. I think I pretty much got to everything. James said, is Mostert out week 2? I've got no idea. I'm not the right person to ask right now. I think I remember hearing on the broadcast that they said that they're doing an MRI and they'll have news today. So we'll hear. I have him in a seasonal fantasy football league, so fingers crossed that he's okay. But anyway, guys, I think I've gotten to pretty much every question. It has been an awesome stream here. Hour and 39 minutes overall. So that is pretty awesome. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks again. Big congratulations to all of our winners. for this week's contests. Our top finishers in the mini max and the pooch punt this week. We'll make sure we get all the prizes and everything out to everybody here. Probably within the next 24 hours is realistic, but definitely with plenty of time to get entered into everything this week. Get your SaberSim avatar up and enter into the Pooch Punt and the Minimax for this upcoming week before those contests filled. If you are unclear on what contest you are supposed to enter, again, they are the biggest versions of those contests for the Sunday main slate, and you have to max them out, right? Smooth out your variance. If the $75 is too much for the Minimax to max out, don't play less. Go play the Pooch Punt. Right? That's a better way of thinking about this. So anyway, we'll be back again. I'll be doing office hours here again tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have questions as you're doing the showdown lineups tonight, or just things pop into your head or whatever, fire off your questions to me. We'll be back on stream here tomorrow. And then I think our plan is to do 2 different strategy streams or strategy sessions this week. One on Wednesday, one on Thursday. I think we're going to be doing the NFL model on Thursday, talking about how the model's put together. And I think we're going to focus on some NFL cash games strategy on Wednesday. I know there's a lot of people out there that like playing cash. It's not my thing, to be completely honest. But we want to talk a little bit about cash games on Wednesday. So I think that is our plan. I'll let you guys know if that schedule changes for any reason. But have a great rest of your afternoon. If you're still playing baseball, right? Baseball's still going on. Seems like the forgotten sport now here. I've got a couple single entries ready to fire off for the main slate tonight. But have fun with the baseball slate tonight. Enjoy the Ravens and Raiders game tonight. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. See ya.